The work program on long-term finance wrap-up event began today in Incheon, Republic of Korea. The event opened with remarks from South Korea's Vice Minister of Strategy and Finance, Kyung-ho Chu, who highlighted the challenges ahead for the meeting.
We should set a clear pathway for scaling up climate finance between the short term and the long term. To this end, your constructive suggestions and active attitudes are critical for this event.
Representatives convened in plenary and breakout groups to consider key elements of likely pathways for mobilizing scaled-up climate finance to reach $100 billion per year by 2020. Co-Chair Sanyo spoke about the need for predictability in delivery of long-term finance.
When we talk about long-term, it's about trajectories, it's about clarity, but it's a predictability and how we assure, especially the developing world, that finance will flow and that finance will be at the scale that was promised and the scale that is needed.
Today's session looked at key features and elements of likely pathways for mobilizing scaled-up climate finance. Finance expert Eric Haities explains how we got to this scale-up.
Going back to 2009 in Copenhagen, developed countries committed to provide fast start finance for 3 years from 2010 through 2012 of about $10 billion a year, and to scale up climate finance to $100 billion by 2020. And the fast start finance period has now concluded, and developing countries are interested in knowing what the scale-up looks like, the pathway between the $10 billion a year and that has been in place for the past 3 years to $100 billion by 2020. And that's what the pathway discussion here is about.
Co-Chair Sanyo describes 3 main cross-cutting themes from the 2 previous experts' meetings on long-term finance.
We need to deal with the issue of transparency and further enhance the kind of information that comes out there in relation to what is given as support and what is received and how it is delivered. The second cross-cutting issue deals with the notion of definitions. There is a lack of clarity on how climate finance is defined, and that affects a lot of the discussions. The third cross-cutting theme is how we deal with the issue of ensuring that we have finance for adaptation.
Some of the representatives reflected on today's discussions.
We need to find the right language and a way of framing that debate, because quite often we put it in extremely detailed technical terms. And to bring people on board, we need to put it in terms of the opportunities for change, the opportunities for investment in clean development, in resilient development, both to get our political masters on board, but also to think about how we bring on board the wider financial and private sector.
Well, I think it was an interesting discussion around pathways, which is a relatively new concept in the discussions around finance. There seemed to be some general consensus on the importance of having greater transparency around availability of finance moving forward, as well as the importance of understanding the impacts it's having on the ground.
Much of the discussion today focused on reducing the uncertainties and in particular focusing on possible milestones towards 2020, such as 2015, 2016, 2017.
It was really interesting to see that discussions were getting more detailed about what parameters and characteristics might be included as part of a design for a pathway for international climate finance. And there was this specific question about Colombia's experience, and we have this fiscal strategy for the midterm from the central government that has a period of time from 2013 to 2024, and that is revised in a yearly basis.
Tomorrow's long-term finance wrap-up session continues with plenary and breakout groups. They will focus on enabling environments and policy frameworks that will be conducive to climate investment in developing countries.